Hi, I'm James Barfield with your Urban Connection. Remember, this is the channel that is often imitated, but is never duplicated. Now, I want to give you my commentary on the Tyree Nichols video that most of us saw on last evening. Now, I want to tell you right now that some of the things I'm going to say you have not heard before anywhere. And I want to kind of try to clear up some of the misinformation and some of the outright lies that are being spread around regarding this situation in Memphis, Tennessee. First of all, I want to say this. This has been billed by the police officers that were involved as a traffic stop. Now, first of all, the Scorpion unit is a so-called elite unit that basically was formed to deal with violent, serious crimes. They were not formed to be involved or involve themselves in traffic stops, okay? Now, and nothing makes that more clear than what I'm about to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I have been stopped many times on traffic stops in various cities. And always, when I am stopped, and I'm sure you've had the same experience that I have, the first question that a police officer, or let me say a law enforcement, because it could be a highway patrol officer, it could be a sheriff's officer, it could be a city police officer, whatever. First question that they ask you on a traffic stop is, may I see your driver's license and insurance card? Okay, that's the first question they ask you. So I have to ask you folks this. If you watched the video, did you see at any time the officers, once they approached his vehicle, did you hear anybody ask to see his driver's license or his insurance card? No, you did not. Okay. Now, let's really look at this thing hard and let's dissect it. The police chief has said that she has found zero evidence of any proof they had for an excuse to stop this guy, Mr. Nichols. Now, let's take it a step further. They basically pulled this guy, yanked this guy out of his vehicle. They never asked him to get out. They yanked him out. And they began immediately to be disrespectful, unprofessional, and violent with this guy. So here's a guy that's complying, not offering any resistance. And he's getting beat upside the head. He's being mishandled. He's being the victim of unprofessional conduct. So this guy says, to hell with this, I'm out of here. And he takes off running. Now the guy feels that he's running for his life. So now the guy's running. And the officer calls in, says, hey, he's running down whatever street, blah, blah, blah. And I'm chasing them. And the dispatcher says, what are the charges? They never get an answer. He doesn't tell the dispatcher reckless driving or careless driving, none of that. So how in the heck can this be an accurate assessment of the situation that it's a traffic stop? Hell no. Let me just explain to you what happened. Either one or two things caused this death. I'm going to tell you. Number one, either one or more officers knew this individual and had some sort of problem with him. That's number one. If that was not the case, then this guy was a victim of being at the wrong place at the wrong time. And let me tell you what I mean by that. If none of those officers knew this guy and had some kind of beef with him, the only other reason they would have pulled this off was the fact then that they had made up their mind that particular day that they were going to beat the hell out of somebody. Okay? They were going to target somebody, and they didn't have anybody in particular in mind, but they were going to beat the hell out of somebody that particular day. And this guy happened to be at an intersection, and I don't know how, but somehow or another he caught their attention. And they decided this is our guy. Now, that mind you, these people are all in unmarked vehicles. They are equipped with flashing lights, whatever. But those are not on top of the vehicle. Those are either in the windshield, I think, or maybe in the grill or something. Now, so they go up. They don't identify themselves. They don't say, "Sir, the reason I stopped you is because such and such and such." They don't ask him for his driver's license, to see his driver's license or his insurance. All of this is what is done on a normal, usual traffic stop. None of this was done. Okay, so now these guys continue their chase, and they catch this guy 8 minutes later after he'd gotten away from them, and they pepper sprayed him, or attempted to anyhow, and some of them got pepper spray in their own eyes, and that upset them. Now, they were upset by the fact that he ran from them also, okay? But they caught him 8 minutes later. And when they caught him, oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, did you see that video and how they treated this gentleman, telling him to get on the ground? The guy says, "I'm on the ground." Okay, well, no, turn your head, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Now, this guy is in compliance. He is not resisting. He is not assaulting an officer. He is not a threat to any officer. There's 5 officers there. And this guy is about 140 pounds, okay? And every one of those officers weighed more, every single one of them weighed more than that. And you mean to tell me that they cannot do their jobs and get this guy under control and handcuff him, okay? And then place him, if he's under arrest, tell him he's under arrest, place him in a police vehicle and transport him either to the hospital or to the jail. None of that was done. All right? None of that was done. They basically took things into their own hands. There was no supervisor there. So this was a group of Black officers who were members of the Scorpio unit. And they began to act like animals and beasts, unprofessional as hell, using extremely brutal, excessive force, being totally out of control, totally unprofessional, delivering totally unjust and unconstitutional punishment to Mr. Nichols, all in the name of law enforcement. This is why Black people in particular have so much mistrust for police officers. And let me tell you, folks, this is not a unique situation to Memphis. Actions like this take place all over the country. Now, so now these guys get together after 22 minutes of waiting for some type of emergency medical response. And while they're waiting, they begin to get their story together. They concoct the story. You see, they used terms while they were beating and kicking the hell out of this guy and beating him to death. They used terms such as, let me see your hand. Let me see your hand. Give me your hand. Well, why in the hell can you see his hand when you're holding, you got officers on both hands, both arms, holding the guy down? How in the hell can he show you his hands? And then you're beating him, you're kicking him, you're beating him with a baton. Then you're using your fist and beating him. And then you got the guy, this is the king of it all. They pick the guy up off the ground. They don't attempt to place him in the police vehicle. No, they hold him up. So the other officers can use their legs, their feet, their fists, their batons, everything to beat the holy crap out of this guy. And they want to be respected as legitimate police officers, law enforcement officers. No, these guys are rogue cops. And let me tell you, the manner in which they acted will certainly leave one to believe they have done this before. As a matter of fact, other people have said they've been physically abused and violated by members of the Scorpio unit, only to have the head honchos at the police department and internal affairs turn a blind eye, ignore it. And this is what happens when you ignore a problem or a potential problem, or when you ignore people that want to file a complaint. You ignore them, you brush them off until something like this happens. Remember, folks, remember on the George Floyd situation, Derek Chauvin had 17 or 18 complaints and none of them were ever looked into? None of them were ever looked into. None of them were ever taken seriously by the Minneapolis Police Department until it's too late. Until the same Derek Chauvin has had his knee in someone's back for over a long period of time until the guy says, I can't breathe, and he ignores it. Well, you know, this is something that I'm sure the Memphis Police Department knows full well. First of all, let me say this. I'm proud to say that the Memphis police chief, immediately upon seeing the video herself, said, oh, no, hell no. This is not a traffic stop. And even if it was a traffic stop, this is not the way we handle things. Not in Memphis. We don't handle traffic stops like that. Even if this guy had robbed a bank. Our job is to serve and protect. Our job is to take into custody people that violate our laws. Put them in handcuffs as they did. Put the guy in a vehicle or call some, if you need a supervisor or whatever, call somebody to take this guy either to a hospital for treatment or observation at least, or take the guy to jail. These guys made no attempt to put the guy in custody. None of them made no attempt to stop the brutal, unconstitutional beating that this guy was getting. In other words, they were punishing him. Well, that's not your job. That's the court's job. That's the judge's job. Nowhere in the police handbook does it say you are to punish anybody for any infraction or any violation. That is not your job. And they know that. Now we hear people say, well, they need better training. Hell, they don't need any training. These guys have all went through training. They've went through an academy. They've passed training. They know what the training calls for. But if you're a rogue cop, you disregard training because you want to have your way of doing things, your way of handling things. So now, while you're beating the crap out of this guy, you're also trying to point a narrative for a trial, if there should be one. And your narrative is, this guy was a threat. This guy was reaching for my gun. This guy would not follow commands. This guy was doing this. And all of that is a big, big lie. This guy was cool, calm, and collected. And let me tell you, much more cool and calm and collected than I would have been under similar circumstances. And I'm sure the same goes for many of you. This guy never raised his voice, except at the very end, when this guy is shouting and hollering for his life and calling mom, mom. It's the only time the guy ever even raised his voice. But these guys were calling him all kind of everything but the child of God. Okay? All kind of names. Names that I cannot use on this show and will not use on this show. But these guys, none of these guys deserves to be on any law enforcement department anywhere in the United States of America. Okay? And first of all, the chief fired them. Unfortunately, the chief, they're charged. But what needs to happen is they need to be found guilty, and their licenses, law enforcement licenses, should be revoked. They should not be able to go to any department in the United States of America and become a law enforcement officer. Secondly, the United States Congress is going to have to, and I know they won't like it, but somehow or another, and it might not be possible right now, at least for maybe the next 2 years, but even at this time, it should be possible, after seeing that video, seeing that brutal, unconstitutional killing, that's what it is, it's a killing, a murder. After seeing that, there should not be a United States congressman or a United States senator that would not be willing to change some of our laws involving police. And the biggest change that you can make is reversing the qualified immunity law. Take it off the books. It's long overdue. This is what gives these guys the authority that they think they have and the power they think they have, simply because they are protected, because they wear a gun and a badge, okay, that they are protected by the United States Constitution, which says they have or are entitled to qualified immunity. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is unjust law, and it is one that attracts many rogue people into the profession of law enforcement, because they can get away with, and they know this, they can get away with almost anything and be covered by qualified immunity. Okay? So I just want to tell you that what you saw in that video is what you believe. Don't believe any of this stuff that these officers that were involved are trying to pass as a defense for what they did. Let me tell you, there is no defense for what they did. So now it's my understanding that attorneys for at least 2 of them have said they would plead not guilty. That's fine. I think that the prosecutor, the Attorney General's office, and I think we will have some cooperative police officers, including the police chief, that was testifying in court that these guys were not operating under the guise of the Memphis Police Department. They were acting on their own. And any and everybody that assisted them, and any and everybody that was on the scene that refused to intervene and stop the unlawful beating and brutal punishment that was being meted out to this guy should be charged as well. Anybody that was there that refused to render medical service or attention to this guy should be charged as well. So I think you've not seen the last of the people that are going to be charged with criminal activity in this case of Mr. Tyree Nichols. And by the way, let me say, I want to offer my sincerest condolences to the family of Mr. Nichols. And I certainly would hope that this is the last of this type of punishment and brutality being meted out to, in particular, unarmed young Black men and women. It is time out for that. But again, I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we have a duty and a responsibility as citizens to put a stop to this. Again, using our voices. And I want to say, I'm certainly glad that there was little to no violence, no rock throwing, no bottle throwing, no destruction of property on last night. And I hope the same thing holds true throughout this entire process. But ladies and gentlemen, we have to use our voice. We have to contact your senator, your US senator or congressman, and you can do that three ways. You can do that by email, you can do that by telephone, or you can do that by text messaging. Either way, every one of your senators and your congressmen should hear from you, letting them know that we've had enough of this already. This is 2023, not 1923, not 1619. This is 2023. It is time for police to return to preserve and protect, not beat, shoot, kill, and punish. That is not your job. That is not in your job description. Nowhere in any law enforcement book is that found. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to remember, this was not a traffic stop. This was nothing more than a targeted, intentional beating leading to murder by these scorpion officers. Okay? Let me know what you think in the comment section, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Okay? I'm out.